So you, the voters, have already spoken on this matter. Polling is clear. Americans are worried about the age of the president and his leading Republican opponent. In fact, our new poll from Decision Desk HQ shows 80% of Americans are somewhat or very concerned with the president's age. 63% say the exact same thing about former President Trump. And just today, Republican Senator Mitt Romney did something remarkable. He showed that stepping out of the way is not only possible, but possibly responsible. He called on Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden to do the same.
I think it would be a great thing if both President Biden and former President Trump were to stand aside and let their respective party pick someone in the next generation.
Yet, here we are entering a new stage in the never-ending political fight between red and blue, and both sides are already beat up, if you will. Republicans in Congress will search far and wide for evidence linking President Biden to a crime, and only time will tell if there is any evidence for us to look at. So joining us now, Phil Wegmann, RealClearPolitics White House correspondent, and Chris Hahn, host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast, also a NewsNation political contributor. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. You know, Chris, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on Mitt Romney today?
I watched him give his remarks today. I thought they were wonderful. And as a Gen Xer who feels that we have next and haven't had our turn to lead, I agree with him fully. Now, look, Joe Biden, if he wants to run for president, is going to run for president. And I think he deserves another term. I want to know who the 20% of Americans are who are not concerned about his age. I support Joe Biden. I think he should be given another term. And I am concerned about his age, as I think we all should be. So what Mitt Romney said today was actually good. I do think leadership is about handing it off to the next generation and preparing the next generation to lead. So hats off to you, Senator Romney. I think you're going to be missed in the Senate. I haven't always agreed with you, but I've always admired you.
Okay, Philip, your response in that, and then I also want you to weave in the response on, do you think voters really want to be talking about impeachment right now? They really just want to keep the government up and running October 1st.
So time is going to tell how impeachment favors one party over the other. Clearly, we've already seen from the White House that they want to focus on some of the substantive legislative work, their agenda, rather than get into the weeds of this impeachment. I think that what is so interesting about this sidebar with Senator Romney, though, is he is presenting an alternative. He's showing how you can gracefully step aside, that you don't have to stay in the Senate until right before you head for the exit here. And I think that the other thing that I don't want to get lost in all of this is, in Mitt Romney, you have someone who was once the standard bearer for his party, but in the course of about a decade, he is completely out of the Republican mainstream. And I think that we are going to be studying his time in the Senate as perhaps a reflection of just how much the party and the conservative movement has changed.
Okay, when you talk about, well, first of all, Chris, I want you to respond. When you talk about folks behind the scene, yes, you have Mitt Romney leading by example. You could say that former President Trump is leading by example, maybe encouraging some of the impeachment talk here. I know we're kind of segueing into this, but, you know, do you want to see leaders like that having those discussions right now?
I'm trying to figure out how Trump is leading by any example at all. The man is a disaster and a disgrace to the presidency and to the country. The impeachment hearings are only going to help Joe Biden. That's why Speaker McCarthy did not bring it to a vote on the floor in the House of Representatives, because he had at least 19 members who were going to run for the hills, and he can't afford to lose more than 4. And there's probably 100 other members who are annoyed by this. He's catering to the most extreme wing of his party that is fully, being led on by Donald Trump to do this.
Yes, but Chris, that extreme wing of the party.
The House of Representatives has every. The House of Representatives has every opportunity to investigate the president. They have the committee process. They can do that. They've been doing that. They've uncovered nothing. There's no smoking gun. There's no evidence that Joe Biden committed any crime. And it's kind of a ridiculous exercise brought on by guys like Matt Gaetz, who are going to bring Kevin McCarthy down.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.